Hi, what's up?
Yes, that's me, about to debate Destiny, the top liberal debater, after only getting into politics 3 months ago.
Nice to meet you. So we already talked about inflation 1.9 under Trump.
1.9 under Trump for his 4 years, and projected to be 4.9 under Biden at the end of his 4 years.
I think you guys like to leave out deficit spending, which was 8.2 trillion under Biden and 6.7 under Trump.
Deficit spending is when the government spends more money than they receive in total revenue for a specific period of time. So just to be transparent, I stated the numbers wrong. I said 8.2 under Biden, it's actually 7.7, and I said 6.7 under Trump, and it's actually 5.5. So there's a difference of 2 trillion more that Biden spent during his 4 years of deficit spending.
Why was it so much higher under Biden?
You could say during COVID, but you could also bring in the the total revenue during Biden and Trump was close to the same, and he was spending almost double the amount each year.
So Trump spent close to $4 trillion for COVID-related expenses, and he has a total of 5.5 trillion deficit spending. Biden only spent $2 trillion of COVID-related expenses, and he has 7.7 trillion of deficit spending. That's the point I'm trying to make in this video, that you can't blame everything on COVID. You have to put some accountability on the spending issues that Biden did during his administration.
You could also talk about the Federal Reserve
why was Trump running such huge deficits?
You're not
going to answer that question, are you?
Can you repeat the question?
Why did Donald Trump? Yeah, because you want to gish out the next point.
Yeah, so Destiny is right here. I did want to dish out the next point because honestly I was nervous and I didn't want to forget any of the points that I thought of in my head before getting up to the chair. And he did interrupt me, but I understand his point. But he also does the same thing where he just dishes out like 10 points at once and you can't interrupt him.
Why did Donald Trump engage in massive deficit spending?
Why did Donald Trump engage in massive deficit spending? I don't know the answer to that. Can you answer it?
Yeah, because he likes to spend, because it makes the economy look better.
Yeah, his reason right here, I just disagree with. I just think it's a dumb point.
Okay, so the same thing that Biden and Harris does.
Yeah, but they have a reason because they're
correct?
Coming in under
at an increasing
rate to stave off recession.
Okay, then what about the Federal Reserve printing $16 trillion in 2 years?
What about the Federal Reserve?
From 2021 to 2023.
So I regret bringing this point up because I actually read an article that wasn't completely true. So here's the article that I read that I got my information from. So here's the correct article. It shows that there was only a 30% increase, not an 80% increase like I had mentioned, which is still a tremendous amount. And it also shows the years were between 2020 and 2022. And I mentioned 2021 to 2023.
No, because my point is you like to blame inflation only on COVID, but you don't want to take in deficit spending. You don't want to take in the Federal Reserve printing money. You also don't want to take in...
If you want to talk about the Federal Reserve rates were not only low under Trump, he pressured them to be low. He literally bragged about it in his interview. And he said that when he comes back in, one of his goals is to keep the federal interest rates low. He talked about bringing Jerome Powell into his office and threatening him to keep the rates low.
See, Destiny is just trying to say lower interest rates are a bad thing because Trump did it. What they actually do is they higher stock prices, they reduce unemployment, and they actually allow people to afford to take out loans to pay off a house, a car, or even pay off some debt. So they do have some net benefits, and they also have some negative side effects as well. And now in this picture, you can see the pros and cons of higher interest rate. The point I'm trying to make, that just because interest rates are lower, it's not a bad thing, and just because they're higher, it's not a bad thing. They have pros and cons for how high and how low federal interest rates go.
If you don't like deficit spending, if you don't like the Federal Reserve's monetary policy, if you don't like free money, then it feels like Donald Trump is literally the worst case for you.
So let's break this down. If I don't like deficit spending, then that means I wouldn't like Biden because he actually did $2 more trillion of deficit spending compared to Trump. And if I don't like the Federal Reserve's monetary policy, well, 5 out of the 7 current board of governors were reappointed during the Biden administration.
Well, wouldn't you say the deficit spending is causing inflation? So doesn't that take more money away from Americans by your logic?
I don't know if it takes more money away from America, but deficit spending can
lead to... higher inflation doesn't take money away from Americans?
It can. It's more complicated than that, but yeah, it can. But
yes, inflation does take money away from Americans because it reduces purchasing power, and Americans need to purchase things to even sustain any type of lifestyle, such as rent, groceries, gas, water, things of that nature. That's why sometimes inflation is called a hidden tax. And this hidden tax slowly takes money away from Americans as inflation keeps rising.
I'm saying that deficit spending in and of itself is generally inflationary, but there are reasons why you might want a deficit spend. For instance, it's better to have some inflation than it is to have a recession or a full depression, right?
Okay.
We found some common ground, something that we definitely agreed with, and I understand his point of view.
Yeah.
I'll agree with that. Now, you bring up tariffs. Now, why did we extend them under Biden, and then why do we double the tariffs from Canada as well if tariffs are so bad? So when Biden does it, it's okay, but when Trump installs them, they're horrible.
So as you can see in this picture, Biden decided to retain and impose higher rates on tariffs for 18 billion worth of goods coming from China. These tariffs range from 25 to 100%. And as you can see in this picture, Biden doubled the tariffs on lumber coming out of Canada as well.
So the issue is, if you're talking about specific tariffs as retaliation, because somebody else might be tariffing something that they shouldn't, if they're engaging in that, then that type of thing, as was discussed earlier, I think is okay. The reason why a lot of them came in under Trump and they weren't rescinded under Biden is because once somebody's put a tariff in place and then a counter tariff comes up, you have to engage in a negotiation to bring them down. You can't take yours down unilaterally because you're just going to screw.
Destiny makes a good point here, but I'll actually disagree because I don't think Biden was trying to engage in negotiation talks to lower tariffs. He's actually doubling the price of tariffs and extending them as well.
So do you think all economists agree that 10% tariff is bad?
Yes.
You should look at a study 2019 by Jenny Tang, Brent Newman.
I would never look at a single study on that. Yeah.
Increase.
So I found it kind of dumb that he said he would never look at a single study like this, but he'll believe every economist when they say it's bad, but he wouldn't look at a study done by economists. Makes no sense. So I said 0.44%, but it's actually 0.9% increase on the price of goods due to 10 to 20% tariffs. And the whole point I'm trying to make is it's not as much of an increase as they want you to believe. And it also just depends on different goods, what companies decide to do. Sometimes they'll take a lower profit margin to remain competitive, and sometimes they won't. But it's not just so black and white that tariffs are bad.
And inflate,
That's time.
Cost price.
Please return to your seat.
thank you, ma'am.
So there's my breakdown with my 2.5-minute debate with Destiny, and I was trying to remain non-biased in this, try to understand his points of view, and honestly, I think I did a decent job. I think he made some great points. I thought I made some good points as well, and I wasn't able to articulate some of them in the best of manner in the short time I had. But the more I learned about politics, the more I learned that the far left side is crazy and the far right side is crazy, and a lot of my views align with the middle.